Welcome, everybody, back to the Fire Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the Padres' fifth spot in the rotation. And mainly, we're going to be talking about basically removing Ryan Weathers from the rotation. He could potentially be a bullpen piece. He could potentially get moved down to AAA to kind of figure some stuff out. But his struggles they've been going on for a while. If you look back, his last 7 games, he has over an 8 ERA. And if you go back even farther, his last 15 games that he's played in, he has a 5.9 ERA. And I think the last 3 starts, he's allowed, 6, 8, and 8. So he's allowed over 6 runs in the last 3 starts. Like, he's really, really been struggling. This does not mean that we don't believe in Ryan Weathers moving forward, but he's a very young player. He's our age. There's going to be bumps in the road, and we're definitely seeing one here. So the Padres need to adjust accordingly, especially where they're at right now. They're only 3.5, 4.5 games above the Reds. So, they need to get some wins. They need to get some quality starts. And there's a few guys that are great options. Chase, do you want to go start out with, one of the guys that you've been talking about for a little while now?
Yes, and that man is Adrian Martinez. He was absolutely killing it in July. It felt like every time I read an article, he was going like 6 innings, maybe 1 earned run, and at least 6 strikeouts. He was killing it, and he's still been doing that. When Kinnear had gotten calling up, Adrian Martinez had like a whole 1.4 ERA lower than Kinnear did, but Kinnear got the call up to the major leagues before him. And we saw Near has kind of been performing in his short stints coming out of the bullpen or opening up a game. And I feel like Martinez, if Near's performing at that level, I feel like Martinez can do better just because of the season that he's having. He has all the confidence in the world right now, and that's what you want for someone coming up from the minors and making their major league debut. And we can't really afford to continue to throw out Ryan Weathers if he's going to continue to get absolutely beat up and torn apart by these MLB batters. 6 runs every single game. We don't have that opportunity to waste right now because of the Reds. I'd be okay if we had like a 7-game lead against the Reds, but no, it's 3 to 4 games, and that could disappear in a blink of an eye. So I feel like it's time to call up Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, obviously that 5th spot should be up for grabs right now. Ryan Weathers is absolutely struggling. You saw at the beginning of the year had some very encouraging starts against the Dodgers, calling him the Dodger killer at one point. I think any lefty in our rotation recently for the past couple of years, especially Eric Lauer, has been a Dodger killer for some reason. Outside of that, after the whole dead arm thing happened with Ryan Weathers, it's been kind of discouraging. We've seen a bunch of rocky starts out of him, and I'm not saying he's not a talented pitcher. He is a talented pitcher. Obviously, he was a top 10 prospect in our farm for a reason. It's just a matter of, it's a bump in the road for a young pitcher. Only, he's first or second youngest player in the league. So there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road for him. And unfortunately, one of them is right now, and one of the most unfortunate times for the Padres, in which we can't really afford for that kind of thing to happen. So obviously it's time to start looking for other options. And Chase brought up an option. Adrian Martinez is a good option. Mackenzie Gore, I think, is pitching down in single A or double A right now. I'm not sure, but he's another option that's not very ready, but sometimes you just got to throw him in there, see what happens. Outside of them, though, I can't really think of any options off the top of my head. So Adrian Martinez would be the number 1 guy. It seems like Jace Tingler's still going to throw Ryan Weathers out there. So either he's going to pick it up or he's going to move out of the rotation. So hopefully he picks it up, because, I want to see the guy succeed, but at this rate, it looks like he needs to be seasoned a little more down in the minors, and I think that should be the most likely case.
Yeah, today kind of felt like a game where it's almost like, all right, if Ryan Weathers doesn't go out there and get a good start, then and maybe he doesn't get sent down necessarily, but he's not going to be that 5th starter. Like, and we've seen that he's been a lot better out of the bullpen. At least that's the way I feel about it, that he has been a better pitcher out of the bullpen. So maybe they move him back to the pen. Now, I will say it's pretty crowded right now, although Drew Pomeranz just went down with injury, so he could potentially kind of take that spot. And that would, for his case, that would kind of work out perfectly, because then you keep a lefty in the pen like that. But Matt Strom also was, just came up after his injury, so that's kind of where it's at there. You brought Mackenzie Gore. I feel like it's unlikely that we'll see him before September. And Chase, you were bringing up when they brought up Reese Neer, and it was kind of interesting that they didn't bring up Adrian Martinez. And if you look at like how well Adrian Martinez has been playing, it's ridiculous. In July, he had 28.1 innings pitched, right? He had a .32 ERA. Absolutely phenomenal. And it's not like some tiny sample size. Like, he's going out here and he has been really, really good. I think the only thing that I would kind of be wary of is doesn't have like dominating strikeout numbers. He is pitching in AA, although, you know, we've seen a lot of guys just jump up from AA straight to the pros like that. That happens quite often. And we've discussed that in past videos where like moving from AA to the MLB and AAA to the MLB isn't that big of a difference. So it'll be really interesting to see if that's the guy they go with. Isaac, you were talking about it. I think there's a couple other options, but I feel like the two biggest names right now, one, because Adrian Martinez has had so much success, and then Mackenzie Gore is obviously, you know, the big name. But I think those are the two most likely options that we would see get called up. Potentially you see them go after someone on like a waiver wire type deal. I don't really know if that's what they're looking at right now. But Chase, is there anyone else you think could possibly be an option? And also, what are your thoughts on potentially bringing Mackenzie Gore up?
I'm always in favor of bringing up Mackenzie Gore. He's got all the talent in the world. Supposedly, he's fixed his mechanics, his fastball's back up, his location's back up. So if that's all well and good, he's got a couple more pitches than Ryan Weathers. So like, he would be able to adjust himself and get out of innings a little bit easier than Ryan Weathers. Because we've seen it, Ryan Weathers has been kind of underwhelming these past few starts, and the strike haven't really there. He's been up in the major leagues. He'll have a couple of good games where he'll probably have a 9 Ks per 9 innings pitched, but other than that, it's kind of underwhelming, except from the start of the season. And since Gore does have more pitches, I feel like he could potentially fool more hits. And honestly, we kind of need to see what he has at the major league level at this point. Continuously holding back is not going to be good for his development. So yeah, we need to see him up this year. We need to see at least a few starts. And having Ryan Weathers out of the bullpen actually is probably a good thing, just because Palm went down. We saw when he was in the bullpen that he could pump up to the mid-90s when he needs to in that 1-inning stretch. And I feel like that would probably be the best way to get the most out of his potential as of right now.
I think you're right, Chase. I think having him come out of the bullpen would be huge. Martinez is obviously one of the guys that's going to be not very known among Padres fans. Matt brought up his stats. Looks like he's got some good stuff, and if you can get him out there for a start, maybe later in the month, I think that'd be something great. Mackenzie Gore, Chase brought it up. One of the bigger names in the organization that it would be fun to see him. I think everyone would love to see him up here right now, and I think if he can pitch well, it's kind of just a new source of energy for this team that everyone can thrive on. Everyone can, it's a new start, I guess you can say. As for Weathers, though, it's not that we're bashing Weathers. It's not that we think he sucks. It's just he's a young pitcher who everyone's going to experience this. You saw Chris Paddock, his rookie year, was amazing for a little while, and then come to Dodgers start where it was like the phenom against the legend or something like that when he faced Clayton Kershaw, he got rocked. So, it's just the league's going to catch on to you eventually. Unfortunately for Ryan Weathers, that happened right now. He's got good stuff. It's just a matter of, I think that stuff could be better utilized in the bullpen as of right now with Drew Pomeranz going down, and with how strong this bullpen can be, it can be even stronger with him. And if he needs some tuning down in the minors, it's whatever. It's not that he sucks. It's that he's just got a little more work to do before he can be a number 2 or 3 in a rotation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, Isaac. One other guy I wanted to bring up really quickly would be Steven Wilson. Now, I wouldn't expect him to come in and start any games. He's only pitched 19 innings this year, though he has a sub 2.5 ERA. But he's pitching in AAA. He's 26. He's a righty, pretty tall. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4". A couple people mentioned it in the comment section on a video like a week or two ago, that he could be a guy that gets called up, but he could almost kind of fill a opener and then have Neer come in after him, or then have Strom, or whatever the case is. But he could kind of like play that opener role that we saw Stammen play on Tuesday. So he could potentially be a name to kind of look at. But I do think that right now, I think the best option that the Padres have is to call up Adrian Martinez and give him a start. And it's going to be interesting. I think that, you've seen all the success he's had, and that's why I would give him the benefit of the doubt. But there's also a pretty good chance that, Mackenzie Gore goes out there, has a couple. I don't think they would call him up right now, but if he came in, pitched a couple starts, and he looks good, then I think that's when you potentially see him get called up. That's why I was kind of thinking September. But yeah, and also anyone listening, if you guys have any other names that you guys think that, should be brought up, please comment those and explain like why that guy is an option in this like, fifth starter spot. Because also we're kind of saying the fifth starter thing, assuming that Chris Paddock's going to be back for his next start. So that's also another factor in this. You could potentially kind of be looking for two back end arms. So, there could be even another need there. But anything else you guys want to add?
There's one guy I'll mention. His name's Ethan Elliott. He's had a couple really good starts and a few rocky ones. The only reason that I wouldn't necessarily call him up to be a starter, he only really averages around 5, if not less than 5 innings per outing, and that's kind of right around where Weathers is at. In his last 7 games, he's averaged less than 4 innings per start for Weathers. Elliott's probably been better than that. I haven't looked at his numbers recently, but he's another guy that I think the Padres could call up and he could succeed. When he's dominant, he's dominant. When he's not, he's still a relatively good starter. So I feel like that's one other guy the Padres could bring up, if not. But for the most part, it goes Adrian Martinez, then Gore, then Ethan Elliott as like a backup of the backup. Like, don't bring him up unless you really, really have to.
Isaac, anything else you wanted to bring up? Or are you good? All right, sweet. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.